It's Black History Month. And I did a little history on Black history. We all know we had a civil war 160 years ago. Can you believe that after the Civil War we had Jim Crow going on until the 1960s? And today we're still fighting for economic justice. And that's what today's about. But I'm not here to tell you about Black history. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the treasures that we have at the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce, and some of them are going to tell you about Black history. We've been doing this for a few years. We have some great honorees. We were the chamber that created the Bill McCreary Award. He's a living legend. And I don't have to go over all the bios of the presenters and the honorees, but I must acknowledge Helena Nat, our executive director, one of our treasures. I see Greg Kursop back there, one of our board members, a youthful board member. He just was recognized as being the top 50 political activist in New York. Congratulations, in the state. And I do know he does a good job. We're embroiled in a legal battle right now to make sure every vote counts. Today, in Westchester County, we're still in a fight. And you'll hear more about one of the presenters soon. She's in a fight to make everything right. And I see my top intern, Jordan Jaffe. But two of our best treasures are on my board, and they're the ones that pay me. And today the fight is about economic justice. And George Hulse from Emblem Health is here. And the Colonel, Terry Holliday, is here. And I want to thank the rest of my staff that is here. I see Judy. Stand up, please. Judy Russo, a class act. And I also want to thank the sponsors. Think Positive is here today. And we have a couple of people that we need to thank, Colleen Abrams and David Giller. And I told them I wanted to bring some of those placards over to Israel. I had the privilege to go over there for 42 hours. It is tough, and I was 6 hours ahead of the disaster we read about, where one person was murdered. Actually, 3 people were killed and 8 injured. And right on the road, right on the checkpoint I went through. They're at a war for justice and freedom, and it's a terrible situation. But we're here to talk about Black history. I want to thank the doctors who created Think Positive. I think they want 25 million posters up throughout the world. We do need to think positive. I do want to thank Sam. Sam, are you here? Sam is one of our world trade experts. And we're going to do, we're meeting with so many countries. Thank you, Sam, for your leadership and support on that. And Israel, I'll tell you about that later. I just got back, and the Jerusalem Chamber, we're doing more trade missions. And Serbia, we're going to raise the flag for Serbian Independence Day with the Mayor Adams, I believe on Monday. And we're also meeting with the consulate on Thursday. So thank you for keeping us so busy, Sam. Of course, Emblem Health and George are always sponsoring everything. Thank you so much. And Robert Peck from Immigrant Mortgage, Immigrant Bank, one of the best small service loans banks in the world. Thank you. And of course, one of our big supporters, JP Morgan Chase, and Staples, and Massage Envy was here earlier. So again, this is about the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce and its various treasures. I already introduced them to you briefly. So now I'm going to bring up my good friend, and he truly is a treasure. He served his country. He serves everybody. He serves the Hispanic community, he serves the African American community, and he certainly serves the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce, George Hulse.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you for the work that you do, Mark, not just for Black History Month, but for the conferences that you do and the meetings that you do every month, and the expo that you do. So thank you very much for the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce and for our leader, Mark Jaffe. I'm absolutely honored to be on the board. You know, we're in an unusual time. And of course, I guess you could say every day is an unusual time in our history. But we've sort of not been here before, probably since the Civil War. Books of black history and black culture are now all across the country being banned. Curriculum in high schools about black history is being sanitized. And black history is being treated as if it's not a part of American history. But we know black history is American history. One of the reasons why we fought the Civil War was not just slavery, but also economics. 40% of our revenue in 1865 came directly from cotton, and we picked the cotton. 80% of our revenue came directly and indirectly from slavery. And as a result, we had that war. And we're sitting in one of those pivotal cities. You know, we know the South fought with the Confederacy, but we also know that Delaware almost went with the Confederacy. We know that South Jersey almost went with the Confederacy. And there was a big fight in New York City because New York City wanted to go with the Confederacy because this was the financial capital of the world. And many people saw no reason for New York City to go with the Union when the money was with the South. And so there were a lot of fights here. So this is a pivotal place that we sit. And at a very unusual time, we all know that President Biden is the most powerful man in the world. But we also know that Donald Trump is the most powerful man in America. And he holds the key to a civil war in America. He has more power than any man in the United States. And so we find ourselves at a very, very interesting times. And as I look at these heroes and sheroes that we'll be saluting, I'm flattered to be in their presence. But I hope 100 years from today, we no longer have to celebrate Black History Month. You know, this started, of course, as many of you know, in 1926 by Dr. Woodson as Black History Week. And the reason why we picked February, it was Negro History Week. We weren't black then, we weren't African Americans. We were Negroes, later to become colored, later to become African Americans. In 1926, he decided to pick Negro Week because of Abraham Lincoln. His birthday's in February. And also because of the great emancipator whose birthday was also in February. And so, as we consider where we are, let us look back in history. Because African American history is not just people, it's also events in time and circumstances. And so, 1926, we started this march. Let's hope 100 years from now, young kids will say to each other, you know, 100 years ago, you'd have been an African American. You say, what is that? And you know, you'd have been a Caucasian. Well, what is that? Well, you'd have been white. Really? How'd that work? You know, because we've got to remember, you know, the problem with these cell phones, I don't like these cell phones because they tell too much truth. If you Google this cell phone and you say, when was the white race started? This cell phone will tell you the white race was started in America. There were no white people before America. And when was the black race started? The black race was started in America. There's no history of black or white people in the world before America. The Romans weren't white, they were Romans. They were a tribe. The British weren't white, they were British. The Irish were a tribe, the Germans were a tribe. And we started race and we started racism for economic reasons. Now, am I proud to be an American? Most certainly. I served my country with honor as a drill sergeant. Every time I hear the Star-Spangled Banner, my heart skips a beat. I know I'm in the greatest country in the world, and I'm so honored. But I'll also be very honored one day when I look down from heaven and we no longer have to have African American Month or Black History Month. So we're going to have a good time. We're going to honor some heroes and sheroes. And once again, my thanks to Mark. But more important than Mark, my thanks to each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy calendar to be here for this celebration. Thank you so much. Mark, can you come back up?
How can I go after George Hulse? And we both have to report to Colonel Terry Holliday because he's the chairman of our board and he also leads our Veteran and Military Affairs Committee. Thank you very much. And I see one of our other sponsors out here, Bishop Lubin, who is celebrating 220 years of Haitian liberation. And he's got a slogan out there, we're going to make Haiti great again. So thank you for your support and anything we can do to help you let us know. The first honoree is a good friend of mine. I'm not going to say an old friend of mine, but let me tell you something. He went to college in Dobbs Ferry, New York, where I was born and raised. And fast forward, I think about 6 years ago, right before COVID, I know Greg was there. We cut the ribbon on Mercy College, Manhattan. And all I can say is, go Mavericks. You'll see when he stands up and his two children are here that this family basketball team would win. They have the height and they have the moves. He also studied criminology, very important subject today, along with sociology, which is very important today because if we can't figure out how to motivate people and what makes them tick, it leads to desperation and crime, and we need to solve that problem. And you've been doing a good job of solving that problem. I know Mayor Dinkins put you to work and tasked you. I know Claire Schulman did the same thing. Actually, Mr. Dinkins did it while he was the Manhattan Borough President, and Claire Schulman said, well, give a little more love to Queens, or vice versa. But today, he's in charge of the Harlem Community Economic Development Corporation. And it's not just a business group. It's not just an economic development group. It takes care of the community. It builds housing. And without taking care of the community, without caring about the civics, we might as well forget about the business, or we'll be in a tyrannical situation. It all goes together. The workers, the people that live in the community need to live in harmony. And I want to commend you for what Empire State Development has chosen to lead the Harlem Community Economic Development Corporation. And part of that is because your great family values. I know you have, we have a great friend in common, the late, great Roy Hastek, who chaired the Caribbean American Chamber. And come on up.
Good morning, everyone. How you doing? When I first came, all right, I had to point out, remember, this is not Wakanda, okay? This is the BX. That's where I'm from. The BX, baby. Give it up. Okay? But I definitely, this is truly, and thank you, Mark. I'm so humbled and gratified by this honor. And George, you called on it. Remember, race is a social construct. There's only one race, the human race, okay? That's what it is, right? But why I say that this is really a homecoming is because, I'm surrounded by friends, family, with my two sons, James and Julian. Please just stand up. Just say, please. They hate being here, but they came out. And then, of course, can you say Harlem Community Development Corporation? EMA, yes. Community Engagement for Harlem CDC. But yes, Mark, you did say what? You said, of course, Dobbs Ferry. At the time, it was Mercy College, but Mercy University it is. Scorpio Rogers, yes. And then remember, my journey in terms of community development happened under then Mayor David Dinkins. And that was at the New York City Department of Business Services, which is now the Department of Small Business Services. But one of my colleagues, man, and we go back, way back. As a matter of fact, why I never ran for public office is because he knows all the stories. And I'd make him a very rich man to keep it quiet. And of course, Eric Parker, go ahead, yes, SBS. So, like I said, I'm humbled. I do wish that I would live to see the day when there was no black, no white. There was no differentiation in terms of people. But like you said, this day, this month, Black History Month is American history, and we must always remember that. There's no erasure, just tell the story. And love America with all of its faults, all of its warts. It's still the greatest country on the face of this planet. Thank you, y'all.
So this is a little memento for you. Now that you've joined the legions of honorees, we have to go over that before we leave who we've honored.
Yes.
Some great people in the past, but for Curtis Archer, president of the Harlem Community Development Corporation, for helping local entrepreneurs start and grow small businesses and safe communities.
Well, you know what? I gotta say that. Remember, in community development, it's never about the money. It's always about the service that you provide to the community. And so, like I said, James, who now works under Mayor Adams, and yes, he and I do go at it. Who's better, the state or the city? And I say the state. Okay? We can override anything that you guys do. But having said that, no, this is what it's all about. When you actually recognize by your peers, by your group, this is what it's all about. So I thank you guys for even just coming out and partaking of this. And Ema, in a moment's notice, you pivoted and you came. So thank you one and all for coming out this morning. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a young lady here who came all the way down from Westchester County. Did you take the train?
I did not.
You did not. Wait, that's why we're fighting for that congestion price taxing. It's a lot quicker and more affordable. And as I was being driven around Israel, the historic city where there's churches and temples, it's a very diverse city, Jerusalem. Because of all that rich history, I'm going, where's all the traffic? And they said, we have a war going on. A lot of people aren't driving around. So I look forward to, we made a partnership there with another chamber. I know Marianne as the former supervisor of Bedford. I think they made many movies up there. But Bedford's a beautiful enclave, a lot of people. For you to be the supervisor in that town is very special. I'm sure you're going to tell us a little bit about that. Marianne is a close friend of myself because of her passion. You'll hear about that. Her dedication, her family values, the respect that she has for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're white, you're black, you're straight, you're gay. It doesn't matter if you're a single mom or you have 8 kids and, your husband, a nuclear family. It doesn't matter, Marianne. And that's why she's been asked to run for Congress this year. Pretty soon, she has a whole team that will put her on the ballot, gather her petitions. And I see the love for Marianne wherever I go in that district, District 17, which is northern Westchester, Rockland, Dutchess, a little bit of Putnam. Again, a diverse community in itself. And Marianne has touched every aspect of the people that are asking her to serve. So I want to bring up my good friend, a powerhouse, Mary Ann Carr.
Mark, before Mary Ann takes the stage, I just want to say she's running for the United States Congress. You know, the Congressional Black Caucus has 60 members. And 32 of those members, the majority of the Congressional Black Caucus, represent congressional districts where the majority of people are not people of color. So you will be in good company because America has changed. There was a time when to be an elected official of color you had to be in a predominantly black congressional district. But that is no longer the case. We've come a long way in America, and you're an indication of that. Congratulations.
Good morning. Good morning. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here this morning. I want to thank Mark, who's a good friend, and also I want to thank his lovely daughter, who is his biggest supporter, and she is always there by his side. And I know it's not easy trying to keep up with your dad as he's trailblazed on his own path. But I'm really, truly grateful to be here this morning. I like what Mr. George gave us, that brief history lesson. I'm from the Deep South. I am a little black girl who grew up in the state of Mississippi. And Jim Crow was alive and active, because it was active well into the 80s. And when it came time for me to enter public schools, my mother decided that she would really challenge the system, because she was paying taxes. We were paying taxes for that public school. And it was really unconstitutional to Board versus Brown had long been passed, but the state of Mississippi was not honoring those laws and policy. So when it came time for me to enter public school, she enrolled me in public school, in that particular all-white school. Mind you, it's a public school. It had better resources than the one that had traditionally been historically all black. Much better resources. And so with the help of a very few families, she tried to recruit other families who didn't have the audacity or the courage to step forward. Because at that time, you put everything on the line when you bucked the system of discrimination and Jim Crow. So what ultimately ended up happening is I got enrolled in that school. I was assigned a seat on a bus. They would not pick me up in front of the house. I had to walk as a little 6-year-old about a half a mile, which is a long ways. I had a grandmother who lived with us. She walked me to the bus stop every morning, and she was there to pick me up. And you would think that the humanity of a person would say, if it's pouring down rain, I will make an exception. But it was, the hatred was so palpable that you could just cut it with a knife, that they would not even stop in front of my house. Mind you, the same bus company that was busing my older siblings to the all-black school stopped right in front of our house. I just tell you that because here I am today as a U.S. congressional candidate. And thank you. And I served 6 years on the council in the town of Bedford, where the demographic is 90% other than non-black or brown. But it's really about the people. It's about the community. It's about all of us thriving and having great schools to attend, having decent housing. It's not just about the elite being able to pay their way through or buy an election. So I stand here proudly and with grace, with honor, with thanksgiving in my heart to say thank you, dear God, for even the opportunity, no matter what the results end up being, just the opportunity to be able to be in such a race. I am forever changed and blessed by it. Mr. Bruce, he told you a little bit about the history. People don't know that before Wall Street, the wealth was in the South. Cotton was king. Plantation owners had slaves. It was free labor. We built the country. I look at how things are today. I look at before the Reconstruction, Mississippi had the most black legislator in the entire country. After Reconstruction, it dwindled. And then Jim Crow, and then no one got on any type of public board or government board. It was impossible. You couldn't even you couldn't even go register to vote because you had to count the beans, or you had this litmus test that they couldn't even pass themselves. So I say that because we are here as people who want to do good for everyone. I believe in dignity and respect of all people. I don't care where your class, your economics, your gender, it doesn't matter to me. We're all God's people. Doesn't matter about your religion. I'm here today, I'm standing here on the promises of those who trailblazed, Fannie Lou Hamer from Mississippi, who would not accept no. Can't turn me around. I'm going to keep on walking. I'm going to keep on talking. So I'm going to move now to the person that we came to honor today, that I came to present, because my heart is filled. I am overjoyed that I've had the opportunity to know this person who came here from Nigeria, an immigrant. You know, I feel some connection there, just being from the homeland. And I think about the challenges and the struggles that she had to go to just to get here. And where she is today, the president of the Black Women's Political Caucus. She has helped to elect 22 Black women in Westchester County to public office. We also have a Board of Election Commissioner, Black woman. That would not be without this person that we're going to get a chance to meet in a few seconds. But not only is that, you know, I always look at, sometimes I look at it, I'm glad that you have your children, your sons here. They just left. But I always look at the fruits that we bear. And she's a beautiful daughter. Articulate, confident, compassionate, strong. And when I look at that daughter, it already speaks to me about the character of the person. Because how could this mother raise such an individual? And she primarily did it as a single mom. So she has degrees, college degrees. She's traveled the world. She is, like I said, the president of this nonpartisan political women's organization. She makes relationships on both sides of the aisles. I mean, when I say relationships, I mean genuine relationships. She's able to go places that others don't get invited to. She gets invited to sit with the, Congress people, whether they are Democrat, Republican, or what. She has friends on both sides of the aisles. And I think that she represents what we all should be trying to do. Show some type of civility in connecting with people, being able to listen and hear the other person's side. We can disagree, but we don't have to have that triggering hate. We don't have to carry that bitterness. And I'm going to say no punt to the men, because we need you. But this is a remarkable woman, and I'm so proud to call her a friend. And when I think about all the attacks on women's rights, women's freedom, we have to be in the fight. We have to be leading, and she's leading us with the type of passion, the energy, with the type of empathy, with the type of love we should have for one another. Regardless, when it all boils down and said and done, we're humans. I don't walk around, nobody sees me as a Democrat or Republican when I'm sick. When I need to have medicine tended to me. When I walk up to some place and I want to go to purchase, something at the store, I want to be treated with dignity and decency. And this woman treats everyone with the greatest of dignity and respect. And I can say that personally because that's how she has treated me. I've seen her treat others that way. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you to this dynamic woman, Shibomi Macaulay.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I feel so honored. For me, a village girl from Lagos, Nigeria, to stand in front of you today among such distinguished people here. And I look at my arrival in America 43 years ago. I came here not expecting much, as the middle of 5 children. And all my mother said, go there and go to college and make us proud. So I listened to my mother, and all I focused on was going to school. I lived in Southwest Yonkers, worked the overnight shift at Harlem Hospital, and went to school in the daytime. And when I got my degree, I then went to St. John's Hospital in Yonkers and took the LPN program and transferred to White Plains Hospital, working the overnight shift and still having my day job as an employee relations specialist with CSEA. So talk about troubles, trials, and tribulation. I've had it all. But what is most important to me is the lessons I learned growing up, because I got to spend the summers with my grandmother in the village. And my grandmother's answer to solving any problem in the world was food. And it came in handy when, after paying $25,000 a year for my daughter to go to Hastings High School, because I did it the right way. I lived in Yonkers, used my Yonkers address, so I had to pay that tuition. And then I got her on the Excelsior Scholarship to SUNY Potsdam. Now, let me tell you about Potsdam, New York. Potsdam is 7 hours from Yonkers, New York. It is the very end of New York State before the Canadian border, Montreal. So 3 weeks after my daughter got there, she calls me up, Mom, I'm coming home. I'm not going to school anymore. I'm coming home. There are 2 races. And I'm on the overnight shift. She calls me at 6 a.m. I said, okay. I get off work at 7. Just wait for me there. I'll be there today. Now, mind you, I'd worked my regular job, went home, slept for 4 hours, worked the overnight shift. So I said, what would my grandmother do? And her roommate is someone she's known from Yonkers. And that one got on the phone and said, oh, with all your political connections, you should sue them. I said, okay. I listened. I said, just wait for me. I'm on my way. So went to, at that time, Bronx Terminal Market, brought rice, brought fish, brought plantain, brought spinach, cooked up, and bought 50 containers of food, dished it out. Then wore my most African outfit with my headgear and drove to Potsdam, New York, 7 hours. So as soon as I got there, I saw the security guard. I said, I'm Simi's mom, here's some food, try it. Everybody in her dorm, I gave them food. Even the director of student life, who was ready to expel my daughter, she thought I was going to come there and say, what happened? I said, no, I'm just here to bring you some food. Got the food. Then went to see my daughter and said, it's all right. No, I'm coming back with you. My bags are packed. I'm coming. I said, no, you are not coming with me. You are going to stay here. Because in order for you to get to the other side of the storm, you have to go through the storm. And of course, like most American kids, oh, you don't love me. I'm your only child. I said, no, Simi, you are not coming home with me. I said, let's see what happens. I get back to New York. I have to call out to Yonkers. I have to call out because I'm tired. So I'm sleeping in bed. 10 p.m. She called me, Mom, my roommates want to talk to you. I said, what? Oh, Mrs. McCauley, that food was delicious. Can you come next weekend? So I did that for 6 months. Not because I wanted to. Every weekend I would drive up and cook, but I was trying to teach my daughter a lesson. That in order to get to the other side of the storm, you have to go through the storm. She had asthma attack. When she had an asthma attack, this same director of student life that wanted to expel her, oh, you don't have to come, Mrs. McCauley. My husband and I, we took her to the hospital. You don't have to come. But of course, I'm a mother. I show up. My daughter says, what are you doing here? I have people to look at me. I said, I just want to make sure you're okay. She graduated magna cum laude. But the lesson here is that in order to get to the other side of the storm, you have to go through the storm. Life has no shortcuts. And that's what I've done as the president of the Westchester Black Women's Political Caucus. I tell people, as long as we continue to communicate, as long as we continue to have dialogue, we don't have to agree, but let us respect each other. Let us understand that everybody has a viewpoint. I met Mark Jaffe a few weeks ago in Bedford, New York, Mount Kisco, New York. Mary Ann is a woman I am proud of. As the first black town supervisor of Bedford, Mary Ann is a woman who understands what it is to come from nothing and want to give that to her community. And I keep telling her, and I say, stay in the race. Isn't that what I say? Stay in the race. Because you have to build your base. And then you don't know what higher office that will throw you into. So stay in this race. For all of you here in this room, whatever you're going through in life, please know you've got to stay in the storm to see the other side of the storm. Thank you so much.
Let me tell my sister from Africa, she's not the only African up here. You know, I just got here 400 years before. You know, she's not the first Nigerian up here. You know, of Senegal and wow. You know, we have all come through this storm. And we continue to come through this storm. And we're not coming through this storm by ourselves. We want to thank those brothers and sisters in the room who we refer to as white. It's all a social science. There's nothing clinical about it. But we want to thank you for helping us to come through this storm. Because when we come through this storm, we will see the other side.
So we have here for you, Ms. McCauley, what a mom. Let's put our hands together because family values win the race. You have to go through the storm to get out of the storm brilliant. And that's why, as president of the Westchester Black Women's Political Caucus, you do exceptional work advancing the political influence of black women. Too many elected black women officials in Westchester, runs our Senate, you do amazing work, and as you said, the chair of the Westchester County Board of Elections. What a powerhouse she is. You've done amazing work. Your work has made Westchester a better place, and therefore New York and the country a better place. God bless you. We are now entering legend territory. I believe in 2008, when Bill McCreary was on our board of directors, we gave him the Living Legend Award because Bill was one of the first people of color to be on a network, and to be on network TV back in that time, there weren't 300 channels. There weren't 100 channels. There were basically 3 channels, and if you were lucky, 5 clicks of the dial, public service was there, everything. But Bill McCreary wanted to know, and Marianne and Sabomi wanted to know where our children were. And that fabric is what made him and America great. So we have a former honor recipient of the Bill McCreary Living Legend Award here with us today, Jane Tillman Irving. When she came, just like you're hearing today, I mean, our presenters are telling us and showing us the quality of American personalities. And it takes a true mosaic and diversity, and that's why we're proud to celebrate Black History. But it's not my job to just talk about it. But Jane Tillman Irving, come and tell us the news today.
You know, this Bill McCreary Award that we're receiving was really a different time in America. As Mark said, there was Channel 2, 4, and 7. Those were the 3 channels we had in America. There was no cable. And then there was Channel 11, 9. And Bill McCreary was on one of those channels.
He was on Channel 5.
He was on Channel 5. And so every African American in the New York metropolitan area, I'm from Jersey, we all watched the Bill McCreary Report with so much pride to see a black man on TV as a newscaster. It was almost like Barack Obama being the president of the United States. We never could have imagined it. And here we were looking at this gentleman, and he would say at 10 o'clock, "It's 10 o'clock, do you know where your children are?" And then he would start his, and every one of us watched because it was the first time in our entire life we'd ever seen anything positive about black people from Africa. Because at that time, we were not told there were people from Nigeria like you. We were told there was Tarzan, and all the black people were like monkeys, savages, no clothes. And actually the reason why the enslavement of African people was so important to America, because the enslaved people who came from Nigeria and Senegal, they were much more talented than the European peasants. The European peasants didn't have much skill. They didn't know much about raising animals. They didn't know much about leather. They didn't know much about building buildings. And the reason why the Africans were so important was because they were skilled laborers. That was as much the reason as the color. And so we owe an awful lot to you and to Bill McCreary. It's quite an honor.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mark and George. I want to say a few words about Bill McCreary because Bill McCreary is, as George was saying, he was hired at WNEW, Channel 5 at that time, before it became Fox. He was hired in 1967, and you know, if you were alive or if you have studied history, what was going on everywhere in 1967, 68, 60, those years. I was in college. But when we turned on television, there were, well, okay, John Johnson was there, Bob Teague on Channel 4, Melba Tolliver, maybe Lucille Rich. I think Lucille Rich was on Channel 2 at that time, but one hand maybe, and a finger, if that, on local news. And so Bill McCreary was one of the pioneers. And every single black journalist that you see today owes a great deal of gratitude. We are all in the debt of people like those pioneers. I was in the second wave. I started my career a few years later, and I retired a while ago. 2017, I think it was. But I worked at WCBS Radio, and I had the advantage of looking like this and sounding like this. And so everyone said, I didn't know you were. And that happened a lot. All of us are in debt to Bill McCreary and the McCreary Report. Which brings us to our honoree today. Now, James Ford is another generation. And he is a man of many, many talents. He has received a number of Emmy Awards, regional Edward R. Murrow Awards, that's a very big deal in the news biz, New York State Broadcasting Awards, and how many, ladies and gentlemen, of you know someone who has given a TED Talk? I was impressed. That impressed the living socks off me. The idea that James, and I watched it, it has received, according to his information, more than 200,000 reports. Well, you Google James Ford TEDx talk on the subject of local news, and there will be many more tonight. There will be many more than 200,000 viewings, because I watched it last night, and he delivered the entire thing as a presentation and talking off his phone without one single vocalized pause. You know what a vocalized pause is? Ooh, not one. Amazing. I was impressed. And he has, like many journalists, James is an Air Force, son of an Air Force officer, and so therefore he's studied in the United Kingdom and around the country, and like many a journalist, I didn't, but many others did, he has worked around the country. He worked in Orlando, where he was the Space Coast correspondent and anchored some 41 shuttle launches. That's impressive. And James is a graduate of Yale University and the Graduate School of Journalism at Columbia. Ivy all the way. I told you he was impressive. And this year, James is the president of an organization of political reporters called the Inner Circle. I am a member of that as well. And every year we write and give a musical show. It's a hot ticket, a very hot ticket. April 19th and 20th at the Ziegfeld Ballroom. We'll talk. But James is the president this year. He is providing marvelous leadership. And some of us perform with goodwill, and some of us perform with talent. James is also an alumnus of the Yale Glee Club, a man of many talents, a journalist, a solid performer, a leader, and an upstanding man of whom we can all be proud, James Ford.
Point out two things about Jane Tillman Irving. One, we happen to live on the same street, which is like remarkable. And two, she pointed out to me, I only learned this yesterday, she's actually a member of the Harvard Club right across the street. So as a Yale man, I don't even know if we can talk anymore, even though we live a block apart. Also, it's well worth revisiting a couple of things that have been said so far, because I think they truly capture what Black history in America is. George Hulst has been doing a marvelous job and pointed out just how reliant the American economy has been on cotton in our past. I stand before you today, the humble son of not just an Air Force officer, but a sharecropper in Arkansas. That's how my father began and went on to become an officer in the Air Force. And now we're able to joke about our Ivy League bona fides. That is American history. Also, Marianne Carr did a remarkable job here talking about her past and how in Mississippi, slavery and Jim Crow and other discrimination has been such a part of the past. I want to also talk about for a second, because it just reminded me of this, about the present. So this is where what I've just said, I hope, comes together. We talked about college, we talked about cotton, we talked about Mississippi. I'm the father of a high school junior who's very focused on college admissions, right? And I love thinking about and talking about college. It's just one of those things. I'm that guy, I swear this is true, who loves to visit college campuses. I get a lot of grief from my friends. They're just like, why? I just love seeing college campuses. My daughter does too, because she's applying, she's thinking about applying to them. And we look up all these statistics, right? So a big part of what we do, the statistics that we look up, is about admission rates. All right, Ole Miss, University of Mississippi, has a 99% admission rate. So essentially, if you apply to Ole Miss, you get in. All right, so anyone who's from Mississippi, who lives in Mississippi and applies, gets in. The percentage of Black people who live in Mississippi, it's 37%. So nearly 40% of all Mississippians are Black. The percentage of Black people who get admitted to Ole Miss is 13%. There are still challenges, is the point. We've certainly come a long way, but it is clear in a variety of ways we still have a long way to go, which is why it's so important that awards like this one are still done. I applaud the Greater New York City Chamber of Commerce for doing this. You all, Mark, I can't say enough how much I appreciate this. And I am honored to receive an award named after a man who sets such a high standard for journalism across New York City and across our whole profession. I had the honor of meeting Bill McCrary back in 2004. So I'm at Pix 11 and have been at WPIX for 17 years this month. I can't believe it. And prior to that, I was at Fox 5, Bill McCrary's old station. So in 2004, I was a young reporter, and he came back to the newsroom on a visit, very busy. You know, newsrooms are busy, busy places. Jane can attest to that in a heartbeat. Our editing coordinator, Vince, says, James, you need to, he introduced me to Bill McCrary. And it was a really great moment for me. in a variety of ways, but largely because this living legend, as Mark has acknowledged, came back. He came back to the place that he helped to put on the map. Coming back is just, it's just so important, particularly because at the time, and I only learned this later, Bill McCrary was fighting a neurological disease. But it was still so important for him to keep that connection with the place that he helped to build. He came back to his roots and kept nourishing them. On a related note, I'll share a little secret. It'll come as no surprise to you that television stations do focus groups and audience research. In Pix 11's audience research, the number one thing that is said about our station is that we keep coming back. I try to live up to that standard by revisiting stories that I do to find out what happens after an event and stay connected to the people in my stories, just the same way that Bill McCrary came back to Fox 5. It's what made him so well watched. He connected with people. Some of those people you've definitely heard of. Martin Luther King he interviewed, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X. He knew that the most important people, though, were the ones who were watching those reports. He did a masterful job of connecting newsmakers with the people that the news most strongly affects. I wanted to say one last thing about the man this award is named after, because I think it also speaks a lot about Black history. It's right and good and appropriate to honor achievements of African Americans. Bill McCrary, as you might guess from his surname, also had Irish history, just like me. In fact, a story I did recently about Black New Yorkers in the years after the Civil War showed that Irish and Black Americans intermarried in that time and before. It's been going on for quite some time, particularly in this city. Now, records weren't kept allowing many African Americans to easily connect with our history in this country, including my own family. But my Irish side, well, more lucky. So we are O'Haras. My last name is Ford, but on my mother's side, we are O'Haras. And we come from County Sligo in Ireland. Now that is 10 miles from the home of a clan named McCrary. What a connection, right? Not just genealogically, but also generally. This man, like so many of us African Americans, was the result of different cultures. He connected with so many cultures through speaking truth in every way at all times. That's how he paved the way for journalists like me. Jane articulately pointed out how, yeah, really, there are only maybe 5 or 6 Black journalists on TV back then. That has really changed. In fact, I guess we have that many, maybe even one more than that many, at my station alone. Thank God. By connecting with a wide variety of people, Bill McCrary made it possible for people like me to try and continue that legacy. I strive daily to be more like the example that he set, which is why it's an honor to receive this award with his name on it. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful.
I feel like I'm watching the news. I'm living and learning. before I give the mic back to our host, Colonel Terry Holliday come up here. But I had mentioned in my opening remarks that we had honored many iconic legends, and one of them, from your words, were Jane's words, from a sharecropper to the Air Force, to a living legend. But one of our honorees was a Major General in the Air Force, Major General Joe McNeil. And if you don't know the history, I'm not going to take the time right now. And Colonel Terry Holliday, the highest ranking officer in this room, our chairman, I do want you to say a few words right after we present this award. The Bill McCreary Legend Honoree to James Ford, WPIX reporter, for his dignity, his integrity, and telling it like it is.
Before we give it to the Colonel, I just want to say how proud we are of both of these journalists. Right now, TikTok appears to be the most popular way to get news. Can you believe what kind of credibility can we have there? You are the line of credibility, and we are so proud of both of you and the man who we celebrate. We are indebted to you.
I'm just going to take about 2 or 3 minutes of your time. I'm the chairman of the board for the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce, and I get to beat up on Mark like once or twice a year, so it's sort of good. I'm also the secretary of the General Society of Mechanics and Tradesmen. That's this building that you're in now, and the scaffolding that you see, the skylight has just been replaced. So the next time that you come in, all of the scaffolding is going to be gone, and I've seen pictures of what the skylight looks like, and it looks absolutely beautiful. You've probably seen scenes of what you're looking at now and in some of the other offices on television shows, on movies. John Wick, it was all over John Wick and stuff like that with things that you see. This is a really great place to visit. It's a great place to be here, and I think Mark is going to have, you're having the Women's History Month here in March, on March 28th. So I hope you can come back to that. A little bit better than the breakfast because I think it's an open bar too. You know, just to do that. But I just want to talk to you a little bit. I know I live Black history. I'll be 77 next month. And thank you. I lived through a bunch of things. I've met a bunch of people. As a kid, I didn't know who the hell a lot of these folks were. I saw all of these people walking in front of the Woolworths a long time ago. And I asked my mother, well, like, what was it? And I think we were on our way to Woolworths, but we couldn't go in. We didn't go in because they had that big strike. Okay, I remember the Hotel Teresa when it was a Hotel Teresa. I remember the Hotel Teresa when it became a camp for Fidel Castro. All right. I would also tell you, I met Bill McCreary. I was a commissioner for Mayor Bloomberg, the commissioner of the Mayor's Office of Veterans Affairs. I met Bill McCreary. He was at McCreary. I just remembered as we were walking in. He was I met him at a block party on about 153rd Street, 52nd Street, between St. Nicholas and Amsterdam. I think he lived there. And he had something to do with my cousin, with my uncle, okay, who was he was in the Harlem Negro. He was in the Negro Leagues. He was played for the Harlem Wrens. Archie Jones. Okay, and I went up to Bill and I just introduced him, told him who I was, and I don't know if I told him I was a commissioner, but I told him who I was. He remembered my uncle. He remembered him fondly. I told my uncle about it. No, I didn't tell my uncle about it. I told Bill he was dead. Like he died many years ago, but he remembered him fondly. But in any event, let me just talk to you a little bit about Black history. I've learned a lot from Black history. I learned about where we were, what we did. I spent some time at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi. I had some terrible times in Biloxi, okay? I grew up on 130th Street and Convent Avenue. I was taught by Dominican nuns at Annunciation School on 131st Street and Convent Avenue. Two of my most favorite teachers were from County Sligo, I haven't heard Sligo in like a long time, you know? But I think we have to learn and move on to where we're in really choppy waters right now, okay? I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and I pledged in 1967. 10 of us started, 8 of us went over, as we say, and there are 4 of us who are still alive. One of my brothers, a guy that I hadn't seen in a while, but we maintained contact over Zoom, okay? And we called, once a month, we called each other, and we lost him a little bit because he graduated from CCNY, he was commissioned as a second lieutenant, and he wound up flying helicopters for the 82nd Airborne, then went into the 101st. Didn't go to Vietnam because it was downsizing as he was coming on board. But we sort of lost touch. We did everything. Turns out the guy winds up in Knoxville, gets out of the Army, goes to law school, does a bunch of stuff, winds up as the president of the Lexington Bar Association. And he wound up as a chief of staff, and he was doing some other stuff from a Democratic governor, I guess maybe about 12 years ago, Steve Beshear, Democratic governor in a red state. Okay, Steve Beshear, and he was elected twice. My fraternity brother, John Michael Brown, retired. No, he retired about 4 years ago, and I was invited out there. I had no idea what he was doing in life. Okay, and other than that, so I go out there, and I thought I was going out to a retirement party. It turned out it was a private reception that was held by then Governor Andrew Beshear. Okay, Andrew Beshear was Steve Beshear's son. In Kentucky, a Democratic governor, white Democratic governor in Kentucky, and he just won re-election in November. Okay, and I found out at that time how close my fraternity brother was with him. I swear to God, it was like I couldn't believe where I was, but I was in a reception where I'm talking to the governor, and they had these bad floods out in eastern Kentucky, and the guy was constantly there, and he flew in by helicopter from there, and he flew out again, and this was Andrew Beshear. Andrew looks like he's about 40, 42. Nicest guy in the world, really sharp. Now, a stone's throw from Mitch McConnell's house too, I guess, right? But he's a Democratic governor, widely popular, and he does stuff. And I hope you hear about this guy in the future. But in any event, Mike died, I think he died in early January, right around the first of the year. So I flew out to Louisville for his burial. And he was held in, not burial, he was cremated. They held him in memorial in the state capitol building. And Governor Beshear, they let out everything for this guy. And I didn't have a chance to reconnect with Governor Beshear because I thought I was a member of the family after I left both Andrew and then his father came on. When I met his father, I met his wife, I met everybody. And it was nice. And I held him captive with a couple of glasses of wine for a long time. But at one point during a very moving ceremony, and this is, I guess, took the roundabout way. It was a Mark Jaffe way of getting around to Black history. Governor Beshear offered a very moving eulogy of my fraternity brother. And he said, "This is a wonderful ceremony. I'm glad we had an opportunity to do this. But I'm very proud that Michael was one of the pushed me into moving Jefferson Davis's statue from the Capitol building so he would not be witness to what we are doing today." One side of the Capitol cheered enthusiastically. The other side was silent. Okay? We still have a long way to go with a lot of these things, and we have a lot of righteous people who want to make things right. Okay, Governor Beshear, I enjoyed him. I enjoyed what he said. I enjoyed that he put some other people on the spot by telling the truth. So we have to find more people like that, and we have to consistently move along with things. These are really tough times. I think these are times when you hold those conversations at your house, at your church, wherever you can do it or whatever, and you talk about some of the things that are out there. Whether it's getting out the vote for whether you vote Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever you do. But we got to talk about a lot of those things that are out there that are affecting us. One of the things that I did with Kappa, and I'm going to end it sort of here, is that I deal with a lot of the senior Kappas throughout the northeastern province of our fraternity. All right, and I found that when President Obama, some of these guys were driven to tears. Okay, and you had it in your own family, in your own circle of friends, to see that a person of his integrity and his wife, okay, that they were there and they drove the bus. But then in the elections that we had, after with Trump, the Trump election, and some of the things that they did where they rolled back things, some of the things are so nonsensical, okay? And it pushed the clock back many, many years. We got to get that clock going again. And the only way that you do that is you get people who look at things, deal with it from the substance that we have to deal with it, and say, this is good to do, this is not good to do. You can't force people to do things, okay? But that's where we are. I really enjoy being with everybody today. I enjoy Jane Tillman Irving. I just a secret. I said I was going to end it on this. Jane has a certain fondness for the inner circle because they let her sing. Okay? They let her sing, they let her dance, and I think she last year or the year before, the city council,
I played Adrian Adams.
Yeah.
I played her twice.
Yes.
The council speaker. I've also played. We also have non-traditional casting. I've also played former Lieutenant Governor Stan Lundeen, who is an Irish guy from upstate New York.
You know,
we do all kinds of
you're eating into my time here.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. I look forward to talking to all of you afterwards. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such great remarks. We're almost done. Before I bring Mark back up, I want to thank all of our presenters at the tables. Make sure you please go by their tables and see the sort of things that they're doing. Second, I want to remind each and every one of you, before you leave here, say hello to 5 people. Say hello to 5 people who you don't know. Tell them your name, what you do. I've talked to a lot of people in here, and 100% of the people I've spoken to, I can follow up with because I see a connection to my sort of business. And you will also. My last comment will be once again about this phone in history. And I talked about how bad these phones are before. Something else that I want to tell you about this phone and why I don't like these phones. Because these phones bring up too much truth. And so I ask you to look up the white race and the black race. And you're going to discover on your phone, I don't care what search engine you use other than TikTok, it will tell you that the white race and the black race was started in America. Before that, we were just tribes and we had no connection with each other. The second thing I want to bring to your attention is something when I parked my car this morning down at 55 Water Street in the garage where I always park, and I took the train up. Then I took the train, then I drove up here. But I looked at the Statue of Liberty as I was coming up. And I want you to Google the 3 reasons why the Statue of Liberty was given to America. It was given by French abolitionists to the American people. It was not given by France to America. It was given from people to people. And there were 3 reasons. It was given in 1886, 110 years after our freedom, and it was an indication of democracy. And the French people were saying to the American people, your great experiment called democracy had succeeded. The second reason why it was given to America was because of the end of the Civil War. And the third reason, and the only third reason it was given to America, because of the Emancipation Proclamation and the freedom of enslaved people from Africa. Those were the only reasons why it was given to America. We never talk about that. Instead, we talk about Ellis Island. And I'm happy about Ellis Island. But Ellis Island was opened 6 years after the statue was given. There were no European immigrants coming by to look at the Statue of Liberty when the Statue of Liberty was put up. And also, people say, well, you know, in the Statue of Liberty, in the left hand it says, give me your tired, your poor, your humble masses, yearning to be free. It does say that. But that was put up in 1903, 17 years after the Statue of Liberty was erected. It had nothing to do with the reason why those French abolitionists gave us the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty was there because of me, not Europeans who came in. The Europeans were greeted by it. But this phone, unfortunately, will tell you those things. And so when I see that Liberty commercial about the insurance in the cars, I think about how important that statue is to me. The truth about American history is American history. The truth about American history is Black history. And the truth that we are one people, regardless of what tribe we come from. They were all under assault by the super rich. Then more and more of us don't have pension. Then more and more of us in this room, when we retire, will have to work at Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart in a part-time job. We've got to come together as working people, regardless of what tribe we come from, and we've got to make America fair for all of us. And so I thank each and every one of you for your contributions. I thank all of you for being here. And one day, we won't have to celebrate this great event we call Black History Month. Mark Jaffe, would you please come up and close us? Oh, you want? Well, let's have all the, I'd like all the honorees to come up, all the honorees, the presenters here. We're going to take some pictures. And then we want to say to everyone else, I never give a person an assignment, not even my daughter. But I'm going to take the liberty of giving you an assignment. Say hello to 5 people. Before you walk out of here, shake their hand or look at them, tell them who you are, what you do, and let's connect, okay? Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. Mark?